Hi guys, welcome back to T&M Ball. It's your host today, Jay, and I'm also with my two guests today, Gavin and Will. How are you doing today, Gavin? You well?
Yeah, good, thank you, Jay. Yourself?
I'm not bad. And how are you today, Will? You all right as well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you both? You all good?
We're getting there.
Yeah, good, mate, good.
So today's subject is we're talking about La Liga and also maybe going into there a bit more about Pep as well. And just basically a bit of a general chit-chat.
Yeah.
So I believe that today we'll talk about a lot of the debt that's in La Liga. Now, just a quick brief, guys. What normally happens is the last time this has happened is, say, Hazard, for instance, at Real Madrid. So you get a major megastar in the Prem, and it always seems to be with Bale. There's numerous examples, and La Liga will normally buy them off them clubs. Now, that's not going to happen. So, say Liverpool are looking to rejuvenise their starting lineup. There was heavily linked to sell Mane to Madrid, but that looks like it's not going to happen as they're massively in debt at the moment. Now, I'm going to ask you, Gavin, first. Do you think that due to the fact of Madrid have not got any funds, it would appear, do you think that's going to affect the Premier League?
Not one bit, to be honest with you, mate. Not one bit at all. Look at the Premier League, and I think it's the most lucrative league in the world. You look at English football as a whole over the last few years. Our teams have been involved in, the Champions League final, sort of 3 years on the trot in getting that Champions League final. English football has really taken a massive turn in the last few years. I don't think any other leagues outside of that are going to affect it at all. If anything, it's going to improve our leagues because more players are going to want to come here. You're going to have a lot more sort of premium talent wanting to come to the Premier League as opposed to your likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, your big clubs like PSG. They're going to come to the Premier League instead. And I think TV money for the Premier League is massive for the Premier League teams. It's why you're not seeing the sort of debts that the Premier League teams aren't in, as opposed to, your likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid that really sort of let themselves go.
I also noticed as well that I'm going to get Will to explain this as well, but the main substance over there is getting attendance money, and they also have a totally different aspect of it in Barcelona and Real Madrid. Whilst everyone here gets an equal divide of money with TV rights, depending on where they finish as well. Over there, they negotiate their own deals, so Barcelona and Madrid get a lot more money and Atletico than the rest of the league, you see. So when they haven't got attendances as well, because that's how their models are kind of drawn up on, it massively affects them. Now, I understand what you're saying regarding the fees and everything, and people want to come to the Prem more, but getting rid of players, I really think that is going to affect things, Gavin, to be honest. Do you not think it will affect... I mean, do you think it'll be easier for us to sign, say, players from La Liga, for instance?
If anything, it'll be easier. If you look at teams that are in debt, big teams that are in debt. Say last year, you saw Barcelona sell Suarez to Atletico for 5 million. I mean, 5 million is nothing, Suarez. If you look at his scoring in La Liga at the minute, he's their top scorer. I think he's 12, 13 goals. I think something near that.
Yeah, he's on fire.
Yeah, and he's been bagging them. And you think that's a player who's cost you, 5.5 million. It's nothing. In regards to football money, that's nothing. And he could have easily, still done a job in the Prem, done a job, one of the Italian teams, Juventus, Roma, anything like that. He could have done a job still. And just, I think people look at players these days and go, he's 33, he's 34, 35, he's done. But they forget, sports sciences took... sports science has had massive improvement in the last few years, and players are going longer and longer.
Very good point.
Retirement age isn't your sort of 33, 44 years old anymore. You look at Zlatan, Ronaldo, Messi. These guys are the sort of in the twilight years and still hitting numbers, unbelievable numbers at that. So I don't think age is a factor in it, and the fact that you've got Suarez hitting them numbers still in the Liga for a top team like Atletico, who are currently sort of 10 points ahead in the league as well. Yeah. Speaks volumes. The fact that Barcelona sold Rakitic, I think it was for something silly like $1 million as well. So if anything, it's quite easy for Premier League teams to sort of, you could say, poach from La Liga. They're going to get players for a lot cheaper than they actually would have, had this not happened.
Well, do you think that players can last longer over in La Liga because the football's so different? I mean, for instance, the Premier League is so physical. Do you think that makes La Liga better or worse than the Prem, or is it just a different style of football?
It's a completely different style of football over in Spain. You see it a lot. Spanish players that come to the Premier League, they only really work if they're quick. Because if they're not quick, they will get clattered. And, prime example, I know it was a few years ago now, so you can't really compare it, but Jose Antonio Reyes moved from La Liga to the Premier League, and he got smashed, absolutely smashed to pieces. And he went back to La Liga. I think Gav is absolutely right in what he's saying about sports science and players' longevity.
Very good point.
Moving forward, it is absolutely correct in the fact that there's new medicines, there's new forms of treatment out there, and players are generally playing for longer. I think La Liga and the Premier League, it's very difficult to compare. The reason I prefer the Premier League to La Liga, it's not just because I'm English. Anybody can beat anybody in the Premier League. Like absolutely anybody. I think within 2 months this season, every team had beaten somebody. So every team had lost and every team had beaten somebody in the Premier League. And I do think that if you do play for one of the top La Liga teams, you're not getting kicked as much as if you were going to be playing in the Premier League. You've not got Ben Mee or remember Ryan Shawcross when he was in the Premier League.
Yeah,
you've not got these big centre backs who have know nothing other than Route 1 football and smashing anyone that comes within 5 yards of them. You don't get that in La Liga, and that's why Ramos is so, highly thought of in that division, because he is that kind of player, and I can't really think of another player in that division who is as much of a bully as he is. I mean, even Gerard Piqué, who's been a top centre-back in La Liga for several years now, he's more of a technical centre-back. He's not the centre-back that is going to smash you into row Z. He is the centre-back that will gently body you away from the ball, use his long frame to sort of manoeuvre himself around and then play a lovely pass out to one of his wing-backs. You don't really see that in the Premier League. And that's why when the Premier League gets centre-backs like that, they look amazing. And that's why when La Liga get the bully centre-backs like your Pepes, your Ramos, why they look so amazing in that league. So I do believe that you can play for longer if you play in a league like La Liga where you're not getting smashed 4 times a game.
I know, like Gav said, there's a lot of different crazy results going on. I mean, 10 points clear is mental.
It is for Atletico, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of debt are they in at the moment? Have you got any figures there, did you say, regarding the Barcelona and Madrid debt?
Yeah. So Madrid are a lot better off than Barcelona. On paper, it doesn't look great for either of them, to be honest with you. But Madrid seem to have more of a plan than Barcelona. So I'll start with Madrid. With Barca and Madrid, really. So those clubs, there's 3 clubs in Spain that are run very differently to other clubs, for say. And those clubs are Athletic Bilbao, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Now, if you look at Chelsea, for example, they are owned by Roman Abramovich. Man City, Sheikh Mansour, Manchester United, the Glaziers, Arsenal, the Kroenkes. They have owners and then people work their way down from there. Real, Barca and Bilbao are owned by what they call in Spain socios or members. So, for example, Real Madrid have got 80,000 socios and Barcelona have 155,000 socios. And every single one of those members pays a yearly fee. And that is for a season ticket. It doesn't have to be a season ticket. It also allows you access to gyms that are owned by Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bilbao. It allows you discounts, things like that. So in effect, those 3 clubs are owned by the fans. Now, the only difference is that they have club presidents. So Madrid's club president. He's been there nearly 12 years. He's about a third of a year off of 12 years, and there is an upcoming election for it. Is Florentino Perez. Now, we all know Florentino Perez is. We know what he's all about. We'll delve into him a little bit later. Barca's president, up until very recently, was a gentleman called Josep Bartomeu. And it was quite famous why he left. He left because of a fallout with Messi, and he was also unhappy at the fact that Barcelona were toying with the idea of a Super League. Their president at the moment is Carlos Tuzque, and I can't really comment on him because he's not been in the job that long. So Real Madrid's debt is, at this moment in time, 901 million euros. Barcelona's debt is 1.2 billion euros. And the reason I say they're worse off, they still owe other clubs 126 million euros in transfer fees.
Now, Gavin, like Will's just pointed out, they under 126 million Barcelona. They owe, I believe, 30-odd million still with Coutinho.
Yeah.
Loads of money with Bordeaux, with Malcolm. Can you see any way out of this for Barcelona, Gavin? You know, or have they literally got to sell the whole squad to get this sorted?
Well, yes or no, really. I mean, I can't understand Barcelona's transfer policy in the sort of recent years. I think the signings they've made have been poor. You look at Malcolm from Bordeaux. You look at Ousmane Dembele. I know he's a very good player, but again, competing with Messi for that right wing spot, and I know he's going to sort of fit in because he's a young lad. But I still can't understand. That sort of 135 million that transfer was. Malcolm being 40 million, Coutinho being sort of in excess of 140. It's insane the sort of figures they've been throwing when they've had a really good squad there. And if you look at the La Masia Youth Academy, their players that are coming in now, we announced Fati, Ricky Pig, they've had some really good youth, Pedri coming through as well. And the fact that they've had this academy there and they've not used those players, I mean, these kids will be worth, sort of a fortune if they manage to stay at Barcelona in a couple of years' time, because they've shown some real promise. Trincao at right wing, for example, as well, really good player that they signed from Benfica. They've got some good youth there. And you think, academy that big, the likes of Xavi, Iniesta, Messi have all come through. And they've not used this academy at all. They've been going out and buying players they haven't realistically needed.
This is it. No, Gav, you've made a really good point. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've got to ask you this question. You've just spoken about sort of Ansu Fati, Trincao from Benfica, Ricky Puig, all of these young lads who are coming through. Barca's starting 11 wage list is the highest in all of world sport. That's higher than any Formula One driver, any NBA team or NFL team. Do you scrap that squad and focus on your younger talent that are on a lower wage balance to balance your books out, or do you continue to try and push and win some silverware that's going to buy you out of the debt? What do you think to that?
No, I don't think they're in any position to go for silverware. You look at the players now, and I think last year, I can't remember who said it, but they were right in saying that Barcelona need a rebuild, from the top downwards. They need a complete rebuild. You look at the players at the minute, and they're an aging squad. You've got PK who's been there for years. I think he's hitting 32 now. I know I just said about longevity, but at some point when your wage bill is that high, you do need to start getting players gone. Messi, obviously recently coming out this week that he's on a 4-year deal with 555 million, which is insane. Absolutely insane. And as much as we talk about balancing the books, he's going to be gone next year anyways. That contract's done.
I don't think it will. I'm sorry, Gav. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think it will. I think it's a big ploy. I'll let you carry on.
No.
I'll discuss that.
Well, like I say, I mean, that contract's then done, after the end of this season. So, I mean, it's not as if they could get that money back. That money's gone. So in terms of balancing the books, they do need to get rid of players. Obviously, they got rid of Suarez and Rakitic, which I know they sold them for them low fees. They could have got a hell of a lot more personally. But obviously, that was them getting rid of, wages.
There's nearly
you know,
600.
they needed to get rid of way more and then bring your youth in. And yeah, you know, it's going to be a transition period, but a lot of clubs go through that. You look at obviously going back to the Premier United, you know, with dominant, you know, in the Prem, and have then gone through that transition period once Fergie's left. A lot of teams go through that transition period where you have to sort of stop. Obviously, Liverpool didn't win the league for 30 years. You know, they've only just won it. You know, we speak about transition periods with clubs, and a lot of the time it's for the best. You know, yeah, as long as you're hitting sort of top four or European football, you know, you're still getting money in. And, you know, your fans, you know, I mean, I think the new camp's, you know, 80,000 seat stadium. I might be wrong there. I think it's more. 120, yeah. You know, you're going to get money in from your fans regardless. They're going to want to see this young talent coming through. You know, I mean, you know, fans haven't stopped going to Old Trafford just because we're in a transition period. You know, fans are fickle. They go, yeah, this ain't working, that ain't working, but they still go to the games. They want to watch. You know, season ticket holders will still be loyal to the club, so no matter what, they'll still have money coming in through fans.
This is it.
But, you know, they've just got to rebuild. They've got to start again, scrap the team, and just go, right, let's work our way up, you know, from our academy, which we know produces. And these guys will most likely compete.
Gavin, I'm going to just quickly disagree with you and put this question to Will, which you definitely can rebuttal after. But Gavin says they have no right to compete for silverware. This is Barcelona, Will. I don't think their fans will even accept the fact that they're in 1.2 billion worth of debt. I don't think they will accept, because they're half, you know, shareholders, that they will accept this whole rebuilding. Do you think they will? Because I still think they will expect silverware, even if a chicken's playing on the pitch. You know, they demand silverware. I mean, do you think that's a possibility, or do you think Gavin's right that they just need to scrap it, rebuild, and start again?
Every single boy in this country would be lying if they said they didn't have a Barcelona shirt at one point. They are gargantuan in the footballing world. They are gargantuan in the sport world. Silver. I mean, if I was, you know, at the top of Barcelona,
I think Gavin's right.
You what? Sorry.
Do you think Gavin's right that they need to? They haven't got a right, that they should be. I think he's totally dead on. They should be using that academy and not doing something like, say, Man City does and just sells all them players to recoup costs. Everybody knows that they're desperate, absolutely desperate for money. And like Gavin said again, they could have got a lot more money, but all them players, Son and Suarez for 5 million, Rakitic for 1 million, you know. But at the same time, they not only can bring their youth through, but they also, they signed Griezmann, a 30-year-old player, for like over 100 million.
Well, they got lucky with him.
Let's not bring logic into it.
Well, what I mean by my comment that I said about silverware is I think that silverware needs to go on the back burner for now. I mean, believe me, Barca are a huge team. They should be competing regardless. But at some point, you need to go, right, we need to rebuild. You take 2 or 3 years, you go, right, scrap this squad, bring the youth through,
won't wait,
and then we start competing in about 3 years' time. Because they're not in any position right now to compete.
I think, I can see where you're coming from, Gavin. I really can. However, it's Barcelona. Do you know what I mean? They need silverware to stay relevant. You look at, I don't know, a team of the past like Arsenal, for example. I know we've never won the Champions League, but we stopped winning silverware and we became less relevant and more of a laughing stock. And that's so. I say this as an Arsenal fan. That's okay for a club like Arsenal, who haven't been European giants since the dawn of time, but Barcelona need that. Now, here's some. Just I've got to reel this off because it is honestly it's staggering. This right. So Barcelona need, from what I've read, to consider themselves safe, they need to drop 180 million euros off of their annual wage list. To put that into context. Yep. That is the same as Spurs' entire squad's wage. So if we look at some of the players at Barcelona at the moment, for example, Messi, 1.3 million a week. Griezmann, 881k a week. Frankie de Jong, 400 grand a week. Serginho Dest, who they signed in the summer, a 19-year-old backup right back to Sergio Roberto, is on 125 grand a week. The average annual salary at Barcelona is 11 million per season. And these, bearing in mind, the average European top club salary is 7 million per season annually. Okay, that's per player, 7 million per player. Barca's is 11 million. No wonder none of the players want to leave. When they sold Rakitic and Suarez for peanuts this summer, they saved nearly 600 grand a week in wages on 2 players. You know, the players at the beginning of the coronavirus, they all took a 70% wage cut at the start of the pandemic, and they are still in 1.2 billion pounds worth of debt. They owe £3.5 million to a Spanish building company for a new entrance they had on the new camp, and they're still planning a 600 million renovation of the ground. How can this be sustainable? Where has it gone wrong at Barcelona? Because when I was a kid watching Barcelona, they were unbelievable to watch. The stadium was full. The merchandising was flourishing. Everyone had a Ronaldinho or a Deco shirt, you know, or a Kluivert shirt, and I can't understand how Barcelona have allowed this wage bill, because that is in effect where it comes down to. It boils down to paying fringe players mega money. You think about this: if you're a fringe player at Barcelona and you get 4 games a season coming off the bench, and you're on 150 grand, which there are players like that at Barcelona. You know, you're getting 150 grand to sort of play 4 times a season, to live in a beautiful city like Barcelona. And then a Premier League club comes along and says, well, actually, you're probably worth about 40k a week, but you'll play football every week. You're going to stay in Barcelona. And that is why they are in this rut, because of the stupid money that they are paying people who give them nothing in return. And COVID's hit, and now they've got no gate revenue. They make £56 million a year on museum and tour alone. They can't do that because of COVID. So it was inevitable that something like this was going to happen.
And that's where the Bale argument comes in as well, doesn't it? Is the fact that he's on about 600 grand per week, and
yeah, he is.
He's not going to leave Madrid. Why? In what sort of mind would you leave Real Madrid for you know, you're getting 600 grand a week? You're laughing.
Exactly.
And this is where these huge teams, you know, obviously Real Madrid call them Galacticos, and you know they like to make that big signing year on year. But this is where these clubs are failing. Is going, we need to make these massive signings. We'll make the money back on the shirt sales, which they make 100 million, you know, easily 100 million pounds on shirt sales, easily. Yeah. Because the merchandising alone will get them a lot of the money back. But then to sustain that player, you know, you're looking at 600 grand a week for one person. That's insane. And this is where football's gone mad. It's the fact you've got your agent fees, you've got your wages, and you know, these are unreal wages. You wouldn't have heard of this, you know, sort of 15, 20 years ago. And this is where a lot of player loyalty sort of disappears as well. You know, and you sort of say about Barcelona and, you know, sort of, you look at a couple of years ago, the wages weren't that high because the players were coming from the academy. You know, you look at Valdez, Xavi, Messi, Iniesta, all, you know, four of their starting 11 there come from La Masia. You know, you're bringing young players through that aren't going to be on those wages that they were. And then, you know, later on, the wages sort of build up as they progress in their career. But this is where they were getting into Champions League final. Their last Champions League final was in 2015. That's 6 years ago. They're not competing on the stage they were, and yet they're paying more in wages than what they were.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head.
That screams that they've sort of failed in respect to, you know, this team that they were building. You know, and the players they've bought in. Well, the players have been the wrong players.
Just a question for both of you now, because Gav, you've made a really interesting point there. Obviously, for years they were relying heavily on Xavi, Iniesta, Valdez, Busquets, Piqué. I know he was at United for a bit, but he was in the Barca academy. Messi, you know, there's right there. There's 5 players who came up from La Masia, and you know, Barcelona's just sort of, you know, they were huge, and because they'd not paid any transfer fees, they could afford to pay them the wages that they were asking, because they've paid nothing for these homegrown players. So now that, you know, Xavi and Iniesta have gone, Valdez is gone, Busquets is probably on his way out this season. Messi is still there, but I think his time is limited at Barcelona for now. You know, has this last 15 years of relying on these homegrown players, you know, has it given them unrealistic wage targets? So, for example, you know, you not only did they pay £130 million for Antoine Griezmann, you know, the guy's on where is it? Sorry, 800k a week. You know, would you pay that to somebody you've just paid £130 million for, is what Barcelona are doing at the moment, because they're not experienced in signing players, because they've had so many homegrown players that they've sort of gone, well, we pay the other guys this, so why should we not pay that there? So then they've got a high wage bill, as well as paying extortionate transfer fees for Dembele, Coutinho, and Griezmann. They're paying them top whack wages, the same that the academy lads were getting. Is that a lack of experience from the board downwards, because they're still using the same model where players are being promoted from La Masia? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's down to, a lot's down to the managers and agents. In respect, I think managers of these clubs need to be turning around, or whether it's technical directors or, your sporting directors who are buying these players in. But this is where they need to turn around and go, no, we're not paying that. We're not paying that. This is Barcelona. Yeah. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Here's what we're offering, and that's that. I think in the last couple of years, wages for players has gone insane. I get why they're paid the money they are, and honestly, if someone turned around to me and gone, "Do you want 400 grand a week to play football?" Yeah, God, yeah. I'm not going to, complain or say no to that. Yeah. But this is where clubs need to have this thing, especially with financial fair play being such a massive thing. Clubs need to be realistic in the respective. Is this sustainable? Should we be buying in these players? Should we be looking at homegrown talent? And I do feel a lot for these young lads coming through, because prime example being Chelsea had a fantastic year before they built Havertz, Ziyech, and spent 200 million, weren't it? You've got young lads there that are good enough. That Chelsea team got top 4 when they had a transfer ban. That says it all. Absolutely says it all. Like said, the United class of '92. A thing of the past. No one looks at youth anymore. Yeah. It's very rare that teams go, let's look at our academy, let's integrate these players into the team where, they can come in with experienced players. A lot of teams now look for that quick fix. Let's spend 100 million, and we can win something. It doesn't work like that. And I think the last few years have proved it with a few teams. That just buying players isn't a quick fix, doesn't solve everything, and will potentially cause more trouble or more disruption within the team than it will actually, it will more hinder you than it will provide you with silverware or a top 4 finish.
Now, just quickly, guys, we're talking about, I know we're heavily focusing on Barcelona, and listeners will go on to Madrid shortly. But just some figures for you, because if you don't know, there has actually been a leak of Messi's contract, guys. This happened, been heavily reported, but I'll just give you the source. It's on the TalkSport website. Now, what's happened is Messi's contract is £492 million over 4 years. His signing on fee is 67 million euros. That's 67 million euros just for signing. And his loyalty is 74 million euros. And these are bonuses. And his bonuses have already been paid up to 92% of his contract of 492. So that means after this year, he's took nearly over £500 million off the club. Now, each year it's estimated that Messi sells, on average, the most sold shirt player name, he sells 175 million euros of shirts a year. So, even though he's costing a lot, he's still earning the club profit. And whilst I understand that even though he's on a crazy contract, he does bring in revenue. Now, when he does leave, and if he leaves, because like I was saying earlier, I believe it is a double bluff. What's going to happen is he's going to request. He'll get paid the same, but Barcelona will offer him a contract. It'll be heavily deducted with no bonuses. Now, we'll see if he is loyal or if he's just after the money. If it is just a contract thing, I think he'll probably just leave and try somewhere else, go to PSG more than likely. However, can Barcelona cope without Messi?
Gotcha. It's mad to say because it's Messi.
Financially.
And obviously you look at Ronaldo and, Real Madrid have struggled without Ronaldo, which is where Bale should have been stepping up. But you know.
But there wasn't over £1 billion worth of debt there.
Yeah,
Gavin.
no,
That's
true.
my point.
But yeah, you can't cover Messi. One player does not make a team, and this is where, you know, yeah, they
might do them better. Yeah, you're right. It might actually financially help them, and they probably will improve.
I do.
What you think? You think Barca need Messi more than Messi needs Barca?
I know that the term "no player is bigger than a club" is thrown about, but in my opinion, Messi is bigger than Barcelona. I genuinely think that if Messi leaves, Barcelona could be on the verge of bankruptcy. Now you could say, well, you know, his extortionate contract is a reason to get rid of him. He brings in more in shirt sales alone than his actual contract. Now that's not to forget the fact that when coronavirus is gone and fans are allowed back in the stadium, the Camp Nou is massive, it's huge. And you've got to think, right, every time a tourist from America, China, Japan, India, Russia, England, wherever they're from, if they go to Barcelona, whether you like football or not, you want to go to the Camp Nou to watch Barcelona play football, and mainly because, I'm not saying all the time, but 90% of the time, because you want to see Lionel Messi in the flesh on the floor. And I think if they lose him, they will lose a lot in tourism money. They will lose a lot in match day fees. They will lose a lot in stadium tours and the museum, which, like I said earlier, you know, they make £56 million a year purely off of stadium tours and the museum. If you take away Messi, people aren't going to be as interested in going to watch Barcelona when they go on a weekend to Barcelona. They're not going to be as interested in going on a stadium tour and sitting where Messi sits in the changing rooms and breathing in the atmosphere that he breathes in every game. You'll still get your Barcelona, you know, your Catalonians, your faithful. They will still be there. They believe that Messi, you know, isn't bigger than Barcelona. And in historical terms, that could be correct. But I think right now, in this financial climate with COVID, Barcelona would crumble without Lionel Messi at the moment. His shirt sales are probably the only thing that is keeping them from going bankrupt at the moment. And I personally believe that if he leaves at the end of his contract, which is up this year, Barcelona will go bankrupt and they could face a point deduction and a relegation, and it could be a very long road back from there. So I think this time now that they have left with Messi and his current contract, they need to be pushing the boat out to focus on keeping him at the club, because I think when he leaves, there's going to be a storm.
Well, the funny thing is they probably have got enough in revenues to actually get out of... I don't think they will face a point deduction relegation because they've got a lot of assets in there. However, this is the first year they've actually ever took a negative in profit. They've actually lost more than they've actually earned, because normally they earn... over £1 billion, but cost of losses of 1.2 billion. There actually needs to sell. Now, let's just say hypothetically, Gavin, Messi does go. Now, they can't sign Mbappe. They can't sign Haaland. They're probably going to get Wijnaldum on free from Liverpool. But again, I'll ask you after this, Will, as well. Who would you get to replace Messi up front? Do you think that, you know, again, you're going to sign someone? Let's not just say, you know, that they're not going to do anything. They'll probably put Griezmann in that position. But do you think, as a cheap alternative, who would you bring into that Barcelona squad, Gavin?
For me, I'd look to the Messiah. I'd just play youth. You know, they've got ready-made players. You know, Fati and Pedri. I think Fati can go on the right. I know he's predominantly a left winger, but you've got Pedri that can play on the left. You know, and you play Griezmann up top. You know, I don't think they need to go out and buy. I think, like I was saying previously, too many teams are now going, who can we get? Who can we buy? You know, let's go into the transfer market. When these players that are in an academy that you can use and utilise, you know, why spend millions on your academy if you're not going to use the players that are in there? You know, that it just doesn't make sense to me. So I wouldn't even go out and buy. You know, I'd say let's look within. You know, we play the players we've got, and we don't bother going into transfer window.
So, Will, this could be our last mention on Barcelona. Same question. would you go through the Gavin route, or would you try to get someone cheap to bring in that's a bit of a not a massive name, but a bit of a name to get them shirt sales? Or
if I was president of Barcelona and Lionel Messi was coming to a contract end, I would say to him, I tell you what, we'll give you an extra $100,000 a week to stay for a further year, and then you can leave after that. Because he would accept that. He would accept that. The money would be too good. He wouldn't get that anywhere else. And then at the end of that 2 years, I would go straight to Borussia Dortmund and sign Haaland for the cheap release clause that will be activated at the end of next season.
I literally don't think they can afford. I know what you're saying, but in this hypothetical situation, I just don't think they can.
The way that agents and the way that clubs are run today, you could probably go to Dortmund and say, look, let's say, I don't know the actual figure, so don't quote me on this. Let's say Haaland's release clause is 60 million at the end of next season. I know it's cheap. I know it's a lot cheaper than what he's worth. Let's say you go there and you say, right, look, I tell you what we'll do. We need to pay it in installments of, 10 million a season, which is about what Arsenal are doing with Nicolas Pepe. So it is a doable figure. I'd say we'll pay it in installments of this much, and we'll give you a 20% sell-on clause as well. And I think if Barca are going to have to dip in and still buy top players, that is the way they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to barter. They're going to have to bargain. They're going to have to sell their souls away for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they have to do what Gavin said and go into the La Masia. Because what I didn't understand was when they signed Martin Braithwaite as an emergency striker, when they've got a world-renowned academy where they've probably got some 17-year-old who performs unbelievably for Barca under 18s or Barca B, who they can sort of say, well, he's cheaper, let's just stick him in the first team and see how he does. Because if you've come from La Masia, if you've got that on your footballing CV, any club in the world is going to be interested in you and they're going to want to see you at a trial. So me personally, I'd barter around other clubs because other clubs have been affected with COVID, not just Barca, and other clubs will be selling players for cheaper. But failing that, you would have to dip into the La Masia.
So let's move on to great answer, guys. By the way, both of you. So let's just move on to Madrid. They're in a totally different situation. I think they're already kind of doing the Gavin route already. They're bringing a lot of youth in, and the players they are buying, even though expensive, with 40 million, say Vinicius Junior. It seems to be that they're buying and then they can get them costs as well. Because even if you're spending a lot of money on youth, they retain that value because they're so young. No one's going to pay 100 million for Griezmann. No one is. We all know that. Now, do you think? I'll start with you, Time. This moment, Will. Do you think they should buy?
I don't think they need him. To be honest with you,
I know they don't need him, but with shirt sales, we've discussed. Etc. Or do you think they've already been stung too much with Hazard? Do you actually? You might be right. You might not even buy him. Do you think they should continue buying big names, or do you think they should stick with filthy youth?
If you'd have asked me this at this point last season, I'd have said they definitely need Pogba. However, watching Madrid this season, they've brought through. I'm going to use him as an example because I adore him. I think he's a great player. Federico Valverde, he's really come of age this season. It was a game against Atletico Madrid when I first really saw what he was about. They were drawing the game. I think they were drawing the game, and it was João Felix who broke through. Last man, one-on-one with the keeper, dying seconds of the game to get the win. Valverde comes in and snaps him from behind, receives a red card. And Madrid don't lose Real Madrid don't lose the game. I think Real Madrid are in a better position than Barcelona because at this moment in time they are not trying to build a squad of Galacticos, for say. Barca are trying to compete with Madrid by signing big players on big money wages, and it hasn't paid off for them. Whereas Madrid have been smarter in the sense of, they're not paying extortionate amounts for 4 or 5 players. Yes, they spent a lot of money on Eden Hazard. They spent quite a bit of money on Luka Jovic as well, on Bale. But
with Ferland Mendy.
Exactly,
I disagree with that, but I think they have been spending money recently in the last couple of years, and then money purchases have not worked out.
I mean, yeah, they have spent money, but I think they've been smarter than Barcelona about it. So, if you look at it, for example, this January, Barcelona weren't looking at some of their fringe players and going, "Oh dear, we need to get these off the wage books." They were holding on to everybody for dear life because they're in a battle in La Liga. They're really struggling in the division at the moment. You keep seeing these freak results. Whereas Real Madrid looked at Martin Odegaard and Luka Jovic and went, okay, these two don't really play. Probably could use them, but we need the money more. Those two accumulate 300 grand a week at Real Madrid, and they both. Pardon?
Reguilon. They've also got. Sorry to interrupt you. They've also got. Is Cruz still there at Madrid? Do we know?
Yeah,
I think Yeah. Okay. So they've got rid of Reguilon to Spurs. They've got rid of Bale, even though on loan. I mean, Bale was 600k. I know they're spending 300k, but that's 300k saving. James Rodriguez, they gave away for free as well. So whilst you're saying that they haven't done, they're still giving players like Barcelona away for basically nothing. I don't think this La Liga style is sustainable.
No, it's not.
Lads.
No, not at all. I think
Crazy.
the transfer policy for the big two. I mean, look at Atletico Madrid and their signings. I think they always do well with who they sign, who they sell.
Trippier, 20 million.
What's that? Sorry. Yeah.
Trippier.
Yeah.
Atletico Madrid. 20 million. I mean, they've got so many fantastic players that they've bought. I mean, I really wanted to. Yeah, I mean, Atletico Madrid, 5 million for Suarez. It's a number of really good points that they've done. They got rid of all their players for next to nothing, but they
Coque
brought
and
in
Saul
for next to
cost
nothing
them
as
near
well.
enough nothing. The biggest player they bought is João Felix.
See what I mean? They got rid of Godin as well, even though I thought it was crazy. I mean, they just don't. The thing is, lads, right? I'll put it to you first, Gavin. Okay. We'll try to keep it a quick summary. How are Madrid going to bring up that 10-point gap? Because they can't just go with youth. You need to do something. Do you get rid of Hazard, but knowing that you're going to lose a hell of a lot of money on him, or do you try to keep him?
I don't think he's performed. He's not the player that they bought from Chelsea. He's been completely injury prone. And he came to his Madrid pre-season training for his first year overweight. What professional player does that? I hate to say it, but I'm not being funny.
I hate
as
that
a Sunday League player. Myself, I keep fit. I want to be as fit as I can on the pitch. That's from a Sunday League player who pays £5 in subs to play every week. Never mind someone who's earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a week and coming back to training overweight. For me, as a pro athlete, you can't be showing up to pre-season overweight. They're shocking.
Well, Will's a manager, actually, Gavin. I mean, Will, what would you do if a player come up and he was massively overweight? Would you think that's acceptable?
I think it depends on where they were before the pre-season started. So let's say at the end of the season, I've got a striker that is, 11 stone. He's one of our fastest players. He comes into pre-season at, 13 or 14 stone after having a lovely summer bender on the beer. I think at grassroots it's different. I cannot criticise players for being overweight. I can't really criticise them for being unfit. But I know for a fact that if I was a non-league side managing, or something that not more meaningful than Saturday League football, which is where we play, but something a bit. Yeah, if I was Zidane,
I think
I'd spend £143 million on the next Cristiano Ronaldo in Real Madrid's eyes, and he turned up overweight. That boy wouldn't see football for 3 months. He would be in the gym. He would be training with the under-23s. He would be fined heavily.
You can't do that. I know what you're saying, but you just can't do that. When you spent 140 or plus million, you can't put that guy on the bench. He's got to play week in, week out. and that's where they really put themselves in. I mean, Gavin, sorry for interrupting you, but how do you fix that 10-point gap?
It's tough. They've lost a lot of goals. If you look at, your likes of Ronaldo, he was banging in easy, 50 goals a season. And that's kind of what's worrying is, you need goals coming from somewhere. Now Benzema's good, aging. He's not that getting behind striker. He's more of a poacher. They need a marquee player for me. They need someone who's going to get them that sort of 30, 40 goals a season. You look at the recent run of results and they've been poor. The fact that their centre back in Ramos, has helped them out numerous occasions, banging in the goals. That's quite worrying. You've got to have a striker who's banging in sort of 25, 30 a season. So realistically, you'd say they need to go out and spend. I know, it's contradictory of what I've just said about Barca and using your academy, but I don't think they've got the academy that Barca have. Not at all. Not as well renowned, at least.
Yeah.
But they do need someone who can, score.
What about Martinez from Inter?
Yeah, I do rate him. Obviously, he's sort of overshadowed by Lukaku, because obviously Lukaku's banging them in. And he's their sort of main striker, but he is a very good player. I think they need someone young, hungry. It's a massive shout, but I would personally go for Mbappe, especially after what he said about his PSG contract.
I really don't.
No. It's in a sort of ideal world that they go for Mbappe. He's easily, he's going to be the most expensive player in the world. He's going to surpass Neymar's 200 million easy. Because he's young, he's easily going to be in the game for the next sort of 13, 14, 15 years. And I'd say he's a potential Ballon d'Or winner. But that's something they need to look for. Obviously, Ronaldo at the time, 80 million world record signing. This is back in 2008. Now, in the last sort of 12 years, football and wages and how much players cost has sort of, gone crazy. You're looking at sort of 3-4 times the amount that Ronaldo was worth back then, which is scary in the world of football. And thinking how much players are worth is very scary. So, Virgil van Dijk being a centre back costing 75 million. Think of how much striker banging 50 goals a season is going to cost.
Do you think it's acceptable, Will, that people can't even feed their kids, and then we're talking about someone who's going to get paid a club that's charging 300 million for, a player? I know it's about supply and demand, but do you think clubs should be taxed more? Because it can't be right, surely. There's got to be something that changes in this world.
I argue to the back teeth with people about this. And
it's not just football, by the way, because I think that's the wrong conversation. It's about the rich. So it's clubs like Amazon, companies like Amazon and, Starbucks. I'm not just picking on footballers. I'm picking on the whole 1% society. Something
absolutely.
surely
if you earn
got
100
to
grand a
change.
year, it's going to take you 10 years to get to £1 million. If you earn 100 grand a year, which is way above the average UK wage, if you earn 100 grand a year, it's going to take you around 10,000 years to get to £1 billion. So why are the 1% hoarding this amount of money? If we're talking in football terms of, obviously there is a crisis going on with food banks and things at the moment. I don't necessarily believe that clubs need to get taxed more. The reason is because, there's that age-old argument, footballers are paid this much and nurses are only paid this much. I get that. It's a bad situation. Nurses are terribly underpaid, underfunded and undervalued, in my opinion, as well, by some people for the fantastic work that they do. However, with football, it's a completely different industry. To many people, football is the only thing that they have to look forward to throughout the week. And these people will buy the shirts, will go to the matches, will pay the season ticket fees, will pay the Sky Sports subscription, will pay the BT Sports subscriptions. they will fork out thousands of pounds on a yearly basis to follow their football club. And I think that the whole argument around footballers are paid too much is completely unjust, because it isn't football clubs that are paying players' wages, it's the fans that are paying their wages because of how big the following is. So I don't think they necessarily need to be taxed any more than they already are, because they are taxed a lot unless you play for Monaco. They are taxed a lot, but it's not football's fault that there is this much money in it. No, that's what I mean.
Clubs,
with the clubs themselves as well. You know, you've got to remember, a lot of clubs do a lot for the local communities at the same time. So the Arsenal have got the Arsenal Community Foundation. Derby County have got one as well, which I know quite a few players are involved with. A lot of football clubs do a lot of work for local hospitals, for local food banks. You know, they do a lot for the community, and I think that the whole argument that football, you know, football clubs being run, you know, the reason that the country is so poor is because of them. I don't agree with that. I think it's a poorly run government, to be honest with you, and I think that football's an easy scapegoat just because of how profitable it is. Yeah.
We can leave this for
So it's going to get a proper deep
podcast. I think this is. It is. Yeah. Well, I just quickly though. I don't want to go just a minute or two. Answer, Gavin. I mean, do you think the clubs should have to pay more tax or not? Just quickly.
For me,
or do you think it's fine?
You know, they brought in financial fair play. This was meant to be a cap on player wages. It was meant to be a cap on how much teams spend, but it doesn't work. And the reason I say it doesn't work is because clubs find a way around it. Look at Man City. Was it last year or the year before, who got away with financial fair play? They spent too much. They weren't meant to be participating in the Champions League for 2 years. They got away with it. You know, as a big club, you've got to be looking at that and going, we can spend what we want. It doesn't matter. When financial fair play first came in, I'll quickly summarise this, but this came in, you know, when Sheikh Mansour had come into Man City. And there was a lot of right, this all money, you know, they're going to be buying players and players and players. They're going to be working away from the ground up, having been this nothing club for years. And they'll be massive, which has happened. But when financial fair play came in, it was right, there's going to be a massive cap on player wages. You're not going to be able to earn, you know, in excess of sort of 250 grand a week or whatever it was at the time. But that hasn't happened. You know, the goalposts keep on getting moved. So for me, unless the FA and other FAs, you know, not just English FA, but you know, other football federations follow suit, you know, you'll see clubs dying or you'll see clubs struggling because they're not bothered about chucking wages at players because they want the biggest marquee signing, they want the biggest player. So until financial fair play gets sorted out and is governed, it will never work.
Yeah, I think I basically ditto them comments. I think it was only Milan that I know of recent history has got banned for financial fair play. I mean, what I'm looking to do in the next couple of days as well is we've really focused on La Liga, but I'm thinking of going to Serie A soon to discuss their topics. So I know we've gone around the bush, but do you think that, let's just say that Mbappe does go to Madrid, do you think that will actually give them that 10 points difference that they need?
It's literally, you know, it's goals. You look at Real Madrid and Ronaldo was bailing them out a lot.
You not think they need a playmaker, or is it just a striker that they need? You know,
they've still got playmakers in Modric and Kroos
as
you know,
well.
Very, very
I was going to say that.
So, yeah, I don't think they need to worry about.
How old are they though?
At all.
How old?
I think midfield-wise and playmaker-wise. You know, Modric looks like he can play for another couple of years despite being 34, 35 years old. He might be 36, sorry. He still looks like he still looks like he can play. You know, Kroos, he's only 31, and what a steal he was from Bayern. By the way, absolutely unreal playmaker. You know, I think they've got guys that can make that 30, 40, 50 yard pass, you know, split defences. They don't need to worry about that. I think what they need to look at is getting goals, you know, and Ronaldo was scoring them sort of 50 goals a season. They miss him big time, absolutely big time.
Well, you say get rid of Hazard, but when we say get rid of Hazard, I mean, we talk about Modric, who's also said that he was going to be the worst signing of the season, and he's turned it around. Do you think Hazard could turn it around, or do you think, like Gavin said, they should just get rid?
With Eden Hazard, I mean,
it's
with
a lot
Modric,
of money just to lose, right?
A considerable amount less than Eden Hazard. Even in that day and age, it was still considered a bit of a bargain, really. I think with Eden Hazard, with the amount they've paid for him and what they've got back, I personally, I'm with Gavin on this one. I genuinely think that what Real Madrid should do come the summer is evaluate his performance over the 2 seasons that he'd have been there and sort of go, right, he's not been up to scratch. Let's stick him on the market for £70 million. Because if Hazard went onto the market for 70 million, they'd find a club within a week willing to take him 100%. If he was on the market for 70 million, a club within 1 week would have signed him up and snapped him up. And he's paid back. You know, if you think they've signed him for 143, I don't know. If you think they've signed him for that kind of money, he'll have made that back in shirt sales because he is the number 7, which is a high selling shirt number. He'll have made that back for them already. Cut your losses, sell him for 70 million, and then put that 70 million towards a Kylian Mbappe or.
I'd go for Kane. I'd honestly go for Harry Kane.
Yeah, again.
Sounds crazy because I know they've got Benzema, but
Benzema's
always said he'd love to go back to Lyon at some point.
And he will.
And I think that time's kind of coming, to be honest with you. So if I was Real, I'd go, right, let's lose Benzema and Hazard. And I'd look at bringing in Harry Kane because I think there was something, we're not Daniel Levy's like with money. You know, is he going to turn down 100 million for someone who's coming up sort of 27, 28? You know, they're not challenging for the top 4 with him.
Very injury prone.
And I know you're going to hate me saying that, Jay, but you know, Kane needs a title.
Well,
is he going to stay at Spurs and not win a title? But for the rest of his career, I don't think so. I think he'd want to win something. He'd need some silverware.
That hurt. But no, it's true. It's true. We are going to wrap this up very shortly, so I'm going to give you guys one last question each, and that is, at the moment, Koeman, in or out? Is he getting sacked, or do you think we should keep him? Well,
I don't think he's doing a great job at all. But let's be serious. If they get rid of him, who can they bring in that could do a better job? That knows the club like he does? Well, yeah, I mean, Javi's doing well over in Qatar as a manager over there, but the Qatarian league it's not La Liga. Could he do better with better players at his disposal? So if he's come from Qatar, he comes in, back into Barcelona. He's a part of the DNA. He knows the club. He knows the style of football, the Barcelona ethos that they've had over the years. I personally think they should give Koeman until the end of the season. See where he is there. But right now, I would probably just keep him because I think he's good enough to steady the ship. I don't think he's good enough to win him trebles and quadruples, but I think he's good enough to steady the ship for the time being. And he was probably cheap as well. He'd been out of work for a little bit, so he was probably cheap.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, Gavin, I mean, his tactical awareness is pretty poor, but I mean, end of the season, he'll probably do terrible. Do you keep him after that season, the done, and just see what he does this season after? Or do you think of somewhere else? Because if you're going to go through this financial peril, surely you still want some silverware. And I don't know if Koeman's going to do it. So do you keep him or get rid? I don't know if they can afford to get rid of him. But, what do you do?
Football's fickle. And
stick or twist.
I think a lot of teams get rid of managers too quickly. and look to blame the man straight away and go, it's not working, this isn't working. You've got to give someone I think a whole season and see where they end up, and then you go into the next season, see if anyone see if you buy anyone, see how well you start. I think you've got to give your manager one season at least. So I'd give Koeman, up to the end of the year, see where Barca finished, see what happens in the summer, see where they are, next season, for the first sort of 5-10 games. And if they need to bring someone in, you look at...
But what he did to Suarez, Gavin, I mean, why should he be given the time when he... less than a minute to get rid of the third highest goal scorer of Barcelona all time,
Something we speak about debt and wages, What was Koeman told in certain terms? We need you to get rid of a couple of players. What was he told that and pushed to that? We don't know. I mean, it's a massive loss for Barca. I mean, you look at how well he's done for Atletico. I think it was poor to give him away, especially for 5 million. Even at the time, I was thinking 5 million for Suarez did nothing. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I think
it's clear that it is.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
but I think you've got to give Koeman the sort of time now. See where Barca end up. I mean, Atletico Madrid are running away with the league. They've won it. Put it that way. There's no way they don't win it now. I don't think. And hats off to them because they've made some good signings. They play good football. Simeone's been, a mainstay there. Where you look at Barca and Real are always looking at sacking managers because that's what the top teams do. Which I think the top teams, shouldn't. You need some continuity within the team, and you need players, and managers sort of getting that tactical awareness. I don't think swapping and changing managers every other season works personally. And this is why Atletico are sort of reaping the rewards of staying with Simeone now. No, go for it. That's pretty much the end of the point anyway.
Sorry to interrupt you because we are running out. we are running out of time. Well, just quickly, Zidane, keep or stick or twist? Second time. The fact is, he left, I think, in the first place because he could see how the club was getting rid of. He saw the club was getting demised, and he left probably to get a bigger transfer budget. He's come back and it's really been underwhelming. Calling out Gareth Bale, I think he could have done a lot more with him if he stuck there with the way that they played. However, there's a number of different situations that
short and sweet on this one.
Do you think they should stick
my
with
personal opinion, Zidane's nothing without Ronaldo. Get rid of him.
That is a very strong
with
statement.
Ronaldo.
Any reason why? He's won 3 Champions Leagues.
Every single one of them, with Ronaldo spearheading and becoming top goal scorer in the entire competition. I'm not saying Zidane's a bad manager. I'm not saying he's a good manager. I don't actually... I'm not too keen on Zinedine Zidane as a manager purely because he was so good as a player and he's got this arrogant aura about him, which he's earned completely. But I do think that a lot of Zidane's success was down to Cristiano Ronaldo and how much he pulled the team forward. You only need to see Ronaldo in the Euros when Portugal won it. He got injured in the final. And they really shouldn't have won that tournament. They probably shouldn't have even made it to the semis, let alone gone on and won it. And even when Ronaldo was injured, he's shoving the manager back, standing on the touchline, barking orders at players. Ronaldo is an elite player, and if you have him in your squad, you are going to win things. And I think the team helped Zidane stay in the job because of the superstars he had. I know that you could say, oh, well, Ronaldo's at Juventus, they've not won the Champions League yet, but Ronaldo has been critical to Juventus since he joined, especially at the age that he was at. Bearing in mind, Real Madrid got 100 million for him as well at that age. So yeah, I think you should get rid of Zidane because to me, in my opinion, it is clear that he is not the same manager when Ronaldo's not in that team.
That's a very, very big. I mean, how many?
I think it was 3.
Was it 2 or 3 Champions Leagues he won? 3 in a row, and you're just saying you don't. That's a very high standard, you know. I mean, I don't think you can fluke that with one player 3 in a row. I mean, of Lewandowski, but I know what you're saying, but you've got to have some prowess and some achievements behind you.
No,
3 in a row, you
absolutely.
can't win them by accident, you know. I think saying that, is he just an expert knockout footballer? As his La Liga wasn't absolutely amazing, was it? I think he's only won one. So maybe it's just a perfect. It sounds crazy, but some teams are just really good at knockout football. You know,
yeah,
Gavin,
it's hard because who do you replace? You know, who do you bring in? But for me, again, I think Will's right. I think Will is right. I don't think he's that good of a manager. You know, I think when these managers inherit these teams, you know, they're already built for success. I hate to say it, but Pep's kind of one of those managers that is a good manager because of the teams he's kind of built the success on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as if you're like Jurgen Klopp, who, you know, was at Frankfurt, I think it was first, and then Dortmund, and was very, very successful at Dortmund when they didn't have these big names, big players, and then went to Liverpool and was successful and built a team. Because that's what he did. He didn't inherit a team. Liverpool weren't challenging for titles. They are now. Yeah. They weren't challenging for Champions League titles. They are now, and that's because of Klopp and his management.
Well,
yeah.
Well, we will be discussing Pep tomorrow, Gavin.
No, not at all.
I mean, I do apologise for interrupting, but we obviously are out of time today. Is there anything you would like to say?
No, Frank.
Before we wrap this up.
Thank you to everybody listening. Again, we can't do it without you. Your support is critical to us, and it really does make the hard work justified. And also, a big thank you to Gav for coming on today, because it's, you know, we've had a really, really, really good conversation, and it is so refreshing to talk football with two people who know their stuff, who aren't afraid of having a debate. It makes the hour that we have fly by. So thank you ever so much, everybody listening, and to Gavin J for producing a really, really good in-depth conversation.
Yeah, Gavin, I have to take my hat off. It's been an absolutely outstanding debut from yourself and me and Will.
It's been a pleasure to be on, mate, to be honest.
Anything you want to finish on, Gavin?
You know, I love talking about football, and, you know, I'm massive, you know, when it comes to, you know, both sort of homegrown and sort of domestic / European football. You know, I'm a big fan, so, you know, it's lovely to come on for the hour and talk with, you know, two great guys about, you know, get sort of different opinions and different takes on certain football and what's gone on sort of in recent years. So, you know, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on.
More than grateful. Well, we will be talking about Pep tomorrow with Mr. Stats, so I'm going to start calling him Will. And it's been more than appreciate to have Gavin. Gavin, hopefully we do have you back on. Be more than grateful to have you. As Will said, it was great talking to you. Thank you very much from us here at TM Bull. Please remember to stay safe, sanitize. You know, we're nearly through it, guys. If we keep going strong, hopefully this podcast help you. Please subscribe. YouTube is coming soon, and we have got the TM Bull Facebook page. So, but
take care, boys.
You.
Lovely
have a
chat.
good night.
Take care,
and guys, thank you once again. Stay safe.